Hello, everybody. This is Marty from Marty's Moccasins and Things. Happy New Year. Now that the holidays are over and all that craziness is done for the time being, I was a little distracted and was unable to put up a new video. I want to thank all of you for your support. Last year, as I started up this channel, I really appreciate it. Had no idea that so many people would be interested in what I was doing. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when my newest video comes out, go ahead and hit that little bell so you'll get a notification. And today we're going to continue with our next video on stones with no holes. And what we have here today is another pretty aura, rainbow aura quartz. Got some pretty inclusions in there. Look at that. This is kind of a pastel-y color. So I think we're going to use gold for this one. I'm going to use 20 gauge gold wire. Now this shape can still be done in the style of the last two, the heart and the triangle. That are the first two videos of this series. But today I'm going to show you a little different, a lot different technique. I've only used it a couple of times. It's much more work intensive. I'm going to use 3 feet of this wire. The reason I'm using 3 feet is because we're going to do an awful lot of swirls and curls. We're going to find our middle. And we're going to go ahead and make our bail. Twist these around once, making sure not to cross them over. While I've got it clamped down, I like to pull on it a little bit and straighten out the wires, make them a little easier to work with. And we're going to bring this one around and this one around. You could make a fancier bail for this one of my bail alternatives. I'm just going to use a basic bail on this one. And we're going to wrap it twice so that it's all locked in. And there we go. There's our bail. Wire flying everywhere. So now what we want to do is try and get our wires a little bit more in line with each other. And then we're just going to make a nice little 90-degree bend. There we go. So you're going to look at something like that. And we're going to make our wires. By straightening them out, you can use your fingers, you can use nylon pliers. I just use my fingers most of the time, unless there's a really bad kink in there. Even that out just a bit. But I know that not everybody's fingers are as strong as mine, so tools can be effective in bending your wire in the direction that you want. Now we're going to want this, a teardrop can be done with the point up or the point down. Your preference. To maintain the teardrop, we're going to keep the point up. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have our bail in a decent position. Because the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to flip this around this way. So this would be what we were looking at on the back of the stone. Okay. So we're starting with working on the back of the stone, and we're just going to make a loop, and we're going to make it counterclockwise. And like I said, you can use a tool if you want. It would probably be a lot easier. Now, another neat little trick you can do is if you take your inside wire, see where that loop is, and just pull it down to the loop size that you want, and then you can follow it by pulling on the second wire, and it will just crump right down with the other one. Now this is going to be on the back of the stone, so I'm not that worried about the size of the loop. We want it to be a decent size, but it doesn't really matter. What more matters is where it's going to be positioned. And here's why. See, now you want to hold the loop where your bail is going to be, and as you can see, it'll be sticking out over the side just a little bit. Don't want that. So I'm going to just bend my bail up a little bit. So now it's right there. See? The stone is going to hide that loop from anything from looking at it from the front. And then we're just going to bend this guy around to the front. Like I said, this is a little bit more labor intensive, and with that much wire, things get in the way. All right. Back of the wire. We're going to hold it down tight because this bend is important. It needs to bend around the stone, but it needs to bend around it tightly. Adjustments can be made later, but right now we need to get it kind of tight, and we've done so. Arrange things around to where you know it's going to look decent. All right, now we did the back counterclockwise so that the top of the loop looped around the top part of the stone. If we had gone clockwise, we'd be way down here trying to do a loop. What we want to do is lock this stone in, so we're going to do it with a series of loops all the way around this stone. So we went counterclockwise so that it would be close to the top, because now we're going to make a loop clockwise. These stones get slippery. It'll get easier as you go. The first couple are a little rough. We're going to make a loop. Once you get your fingers where they need to be, and you've got your stone kind of where it needs to be, we're going to make this loop, making sure that we don't cross our wires. And I'm going to do that by taking this middle one in and following it with the second one. Now we have a nice loop here. I want it smaller, so I just take this one and pull it down smaller. There we go. That's more what I was looking for. Something small and dainty. And now, as you can see, the top of our loop, it's already ready to go back. Oops, sorry, off the screen, so no, you didn't see. Now the top of our loop is already at the side of the stone we need it to be, and we can just pull it around to the back. And now we're just going to continue this pattern all the way around the stone. We'll do a loop counterclockwise. That brings our wire back. I'm just using several different fingers to hang on to stuff. That brings our wire right back to the front again. Bend it over tightly. And we're back around to the front of the stone. So now, as you can see, these loops are going to kind of be, we're using them to pinch the stone and keep it inside this whole continued circle. Sorry about that, I needed a drink. So then we're just going to do the same thing that we did at the top loop. Kind of maneuver everything around where it's supposed, kind of close to where it's supposed to be. Push everything in as tight as we can. And then pinch the stone and the wire and make our next loop. It's okay that everything is going cattywampus. That'll end when we get to the bottom. Can't think of the word that I want to use that we're using these loops for. I want this one to be a little more over there. All right. And we want it smaller again. The size of the stone will generally determine the size of your loops. I want as much of this stone showing as possible, so I'm making my loops kind of small. Now we're just going to bend it back around to the back of the stone. Now we're at the back of the stone again, so we're going to go counterclockwise again. And I'm not as worried about the size of the loops on the back. The bigger the loops on the back, the easier, the more holding power it's going to have. But I don't really want them overly big, especially considering we want to point them where we need them to go. So this one needs to go there. Now, this one is a little more important that you have the stone and the wires where you need them, because this is going to be a pivot point. Like I said, this one's a little more labor intensive. But I think it'll look pretty cool when we're done. So now we just want to bring this one up. Now here I have a double problem, because I do not want to cover up that pretty little druzy hole there. So I've got to make my loop in such a way that it doesn't do that. Going clockwise again. And there we go, I've done it. The druzy is completely uncovered. And then we're going to go back to the back. Now here we need to make sure that we're starting to push everything where it belongs, because the next one is pretty much going to lock the stone. We'll be able to maneuver it a little bit, but we want that one to be in just the right spot. So we want to make sure that we're all pushed in, everything's where it belongs, because we're going to start locking this stone in now. It's going to bounce out on you, because there's nothing holding the bale up there yet. But just to give it an idea, we're going to go counterclockwise. That's clockwise, isn't it? Counterclockwise again. Just to give us an idea of where that's going to go. All right. Got everything shoved back into place. Again, we don't want to cover up that druzy, so we're going to bring this loop in here, like so. This back loop has poked up a little bit, see that? We'll just bend it back down. Now I've got 2 loops on that side, so I'm going to try and make room for 2 loops on this side. So we may have to encircle. Excuse me. We're going to encircle that little one if we can. Just bend the wire around a little bit. I want to frame that little hole. All right. That doesn't look too awful bad. Like I said, once we're done, so we need to pull one more loop off of here. So we're going to squish this down a little bit. There. We're going to go in between the druzies because we need one more loop just for aesthetics. So we've got counterclockwise. I know it looks like a mess, but I think when we're done, it'll be all right. And here we go with our very last loop. And there's kind of what we got. So I want to bring this around the tip. I don't want to hide the tip of the stone. So I've got to figure out a way to get the wire to go around. And lock in our bail. Bail is locked in. So now, as you can see, we have some adjusting to do. So we've got the wires sticking out the side of the stone. That isn't actually a bad thing. The stone itself is going nowhere. I wasn't able to keep that tip from being hidden, though, was I? So now it's just maneuvering everything around. I want to use my round nose pliers, I think, to maintain our loops, and we're just going to kind of pull them down a little bit. And see, that stone is in there and it's pretty tight and it's going nowhere. So the question is do we want to mess with it? Or do we want to leave these sticking out like that? I mean, that's kind of an interesting design as it is. I'd like this one to move in a little more though. So basically I'm going to get my loops to where I'm satisfied with where they're at. I don't like that where the bail is ending up, but I think we can fix that. We need it to go that way. So I'll take these 2 wires and bend them backwards like that, and then bend you up straight. There we go. What I did was I took my round nose pliers and I grabbed this loop and I twisted backwards on it, and it moved my bail back. Didn't mess up the wires at all. And now my bail is in the middle. Like I said, I have failed to keep my point visible, but I kind of like that. This one's sticking up a little, so we need to squish him down. We can do that by pushing on these wires a little bit. This one's kind of sticking out excessively, so I'm going to push it in a little bit. This is another way you can tighten everything down. I said, double check the stone is going nowhere really. It's moving a little bit, but it'll take some serious work. To get it out of there. And now with it kind of sitting down, now it's sitting down in there like that. I don't like that. So what we need to do is push it up so that it's back in the top point position that we wanted. And push these wires down, trying not to mess up our loops. Maybe put a finger over the loop so that it maintains itself. There we go. And now we just finish off the scarfing of our bale. Just letting the wire run around. This helps lock in the loop. It gives more strength to the bale. And it gives us a place to hide the ends. Trim it off. See, we got our little bowl in here. We're going to tuck that in there. And push it down. Then we're going to run this wire around to this side. You can put them both on one side. I just generally prefer, personally, to do one on each side. Push it into the bowl. And tuck it down in. Do any last minute adjustments that need done. And there we have it. There's what our back looks like. So, I mean, there's no cracks that this thing can go through. The bale's still a little wonky, but we'll use that, just call that as part of the design. Things don't have to be perfect. They just have to be pretty. And I think that this is pretty. So there we go. Another way to do a stone with no hole. Thanks for watching, and keep a lookout for more. Bye-bye.